For all right. That only. So I'll let you go.
We lined up from each other. Yeah. We were just talking about Red Rover. We'll get a game going soon. Ms. Reed, any public comments submitted ahead of time? Nope. I don't believe we have any public in attendance other than our work session here, collaboration session, I think is how we're branding it. Okay, then we can go ahead and get started then.
Sure, Lance, if I might really quickly.
Yes.
So this evening, you'll notice we do not have microphones on either side. And after I spent half the day working through some technical issues we've been having with our IT company. And what we determined was actually a big part of the problem was actually our old style microphone and speaker system. And so we've also discovered and determined that the OWL device that we use actually gets used in bigger venues for bigger meetings because it actually has a bunch of different microphones in it. And so after testing, it should be the solution we've had all along to a lot of our issues. So all I would ask is that you, if this is conversational, maybe speak up a little bit. The only thing we're lacking with the system as it is now is voice amplification by some speaker within here. But what we also know now is with purely going by the OWL, if people do attend online, the audio quality and the recording audio quality is actually far, far better because there's also no interference from that. So just to let you know, so speak up a little, but everything will be captured and actually better now. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Okay, so we'll go ahead and review last month's meeting minutes here before we get into new business. So some of the unfinished business we went through, we went over recent progress with our subgroup. So the Glencoe Opportunity Area subgroup gave their update, as well as the Downtown Business subgroup. The GOA subgroup was continuing talking with local businesses, including the food cart owners on the corner of Glencoe and Commercial. Started working on some materials, noting that our very own Michael Accuardi is a graphic designer by trade. We had some opportunity there. A lot of this ties into our discussion this evening, but we'll get to that eventually. The Downtown Business subgroup gave updates that we're still working on continuing their coordination with local businesses and the recent discussion with the Chamber of Commerce, as we will get to, as I mentioned before. We discussed some of the topics for our meeting this evening. We'll get into clarifying maybe a survey that we can use as outreach to local businesses, understanding some public transportation, its impact on the businesses within North Plains, and gathering insights into marketing materials, events to enhance our business support and how we can coordinate with the chamber in that effort. That was the bulk of our discussion last month, as well as a question about any possible economic items on the upcoming ballot in November, and some brief discussion that it should not be looked into in this time, potentially negative impact on businesses, and then we adjourned shortly thereafter. Any questions, items to revisit on last month's meeting minutes from the group?
None for me. Motion to approve.
Second?
All those in favor of approving August meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, we have approval for August meeting minutes. And we can move into some of our unfinished business and new business. So we'll go ahead and kind of kick us off here. I know, Chris, you've done a lot of hard work coordinating and
Texting Cindy, and Cindy, I think Cindy does all the hard work. I just send the flare over to
I'm passing the buck.
well, thank you all for being here this evening. We appreciate it. I have to say, I wasn't expecting this quite good of a turnout. So we appreciate everyone being here this evening, and we'll try to be concise with our time and as efficient as possible with working with you all. As I kind of alluded to, we've been having some discussions as a commission here that we would love to partner with the chamber and see a lot of our paths are pretty parallel in terms of what we're looking to help with within the community. So I think a session like this is probably a little overdue, so we're glad we're having it now. I think just a really quick, we'll go through some introductions first, and then we can get started. So I'm Eric Lawson. I'm the EDC chair currently. I've been on the Economic Development Commission for approaching 3 years, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. Doesn't feel like 3 years, and also feels like 10. And then I'll start with my right, and then we can go back this way.
Good evening, Chris Barron, Vice Chair. I've been serving about just as long, so going on 3 years. Live out here, moved here in 2020 with my wife and little one, and love the city.
I'm Lisa Fry, and along with Jacqueline, we have been on the committee/commission since it started in 2018. When it started. Also live in the city. And have enjoyed seeing our commission evolve a lot over the past 6 years. Jacqueline Hunt, native Stewart's wife, used to babysit me. And I'm happy to have this opportunity.
Good evening. My name is David. I moved to North Plains last year, and I joined the committee just around the same time to help with this work. The full time I work with Intel.
Then our missing member this evening, Amy Gibson Grote. She has been with the committee same amount of time as David. And she is the local owner of Cup of Yo. You may have seen her. She's actually there this evening helping onboard a new tenant of Froyo Machines. I don't know the proper job title, but associate at Cup of Yo. So that's where she is this evening.
We have Michael.
And then Michael is, I believe, at a family outing, soccer game practice of some sort. So
Soccer field, that's correct.
Michael, no pressure to introduce yourself. If you do need to jump in, go ahead. There he is.
I don't know if you can hear me. My name is Michael Cardy. I've been with the commission about 2 years. I live in North Plains. I've got 4 little ones, one of which is doing soccer right now. So I'm sort of doing double duty.
Thanks, Michael. Okay. And then if you don't mind, Cindy, start us off from the
Cindy
chamber.
Hurst. I'm secretary of the board of the chamber, been on the chamber for 10 years, but have been a chamber member for many, many years and lived here for way too long. 45 plus, how's that?
And Russ Sheldon, I'm on the board of directors and serve currently as its president. And I've been involved in the chamber since 2012. So there's a number of other things I'm involved in, but for this purposes of this, that's pretty much
I
it.
want a huge bio, you know.
I'm Patty Burns. I've been involved with the chamber off and on for 20 years. I live outside the city. We own Buck Valley Christmas Forest.
I'm Stuart King. I've been with the chamber since 1995. Been the treasurer since 2013. Have held different positions, been on the board most of the time. Currently, as I said, as treasurer, I moved into North Plains in 1994, and I own TriStar Properties.
I'm Kim Weishoff. I live up on Pumpkin Ridge with my husband, and I've lived in town for about 10 years. And I've been a chamber member for 4 or 5 years now. I'm vice president of the chamber board. And some of you may know me, I work for Channel 12 as well. I go by Kimberly Moss.
I'm Roger Newton. I've lived in North Plains since 2003. I've been a member of the chamber for about 2 years.
I'm Janelle Solar. I've lived in North Plains for 12 years, and I've been on the board of the chamber for less than a year.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for being here and welcome. As you can probably tell, we're a pretty loose group, so feel free to ask questions as they come up. We have a few things we'd like to touch base on, but no stringent agenda so far that we want to get through. So I'll kind of open it up to the commission here. If there's specific items we want to touch on first, whether it's survey questions that we wanted to discuss. As I mentioned, we reviewed past surveys that have been sent out to businesses here in North Plains, trying to decipher what we would like to do going forward as a commission in supporting another survey going out, trying to gather more data and taking a look at what data we would want to even review, whether it's a comparison to past surveys or kind of branching into more specifics that weren't addressed in previous surveys. So I know the chamber has done some work on that as well. So we obviously don't want to double up on efforts. So that's one of the items that we figured we can collaborate on. Hopefully start pulling our weight on in some areas. Additionally, I see we have the outreach form too that you handed out, Cindy. So did you want to give us maybe a high level overview of the
I'd be happy to do
Okay.
that.
He's been in charge of that.
Yeah, this is an ongoing agenda item since 2014. So principally in 2014, we really set out to really do one-on-ones and go out in an outreach fashion and visit businesses. And initially, some of the formats in here from that period of time, and this was organized as a committee, which did involve the mayor at that time, that's former Mayor David Hatcher, as well as city manager Martha DeBry at that time period. And we did have a few committee meetings. We didn't get to the launch. It's been something we've kind of pushed down the road, but we've always kept on our agenda. Never actually, well, we have visited some businesses. We haven't made a concerted effort. That's essentially outlined here. And I think the fundamental purpose of this was to get feedback, correct? So we're looking to communicate with our businesses, make essentially pre-arranged appointments with people for a few minutes of their time to ask 3 central questions, and they're listed on here. Basically, how is business? Why do you choose North Plains to locate your business, or why did you? And then what could be done to improve your business? So we're looking for honest feedback in how we might be able to assist them in having city representatives on the committee, which can include somebody from council or folks such as yourself. We figured we would schedule a day and maybe do this quarterly, and that may not be practical, but to have that effort occur and make those essential appointments and go visit those people and really only get these questions answered, and then come back and assemble an approach of, we need to look at the feedback. How can we take some of that in exchange for how we can make improvements, both not only as a chamber, as a body, as a chamber, because we focus on the business community, correct? We have membership who subscribes to our organization, and basically for the benefit of a network, if you will. So we represent business, and we want to represent business, and that includes economy. And our Economic Development Commission's now been formed. I know that Stuart and myself and former Councilor Eimers, who doesn't live in town any longer, and the Mayor Linehan, were pretty foundational in the premise of designing and forming a committee. And so what was really an idea we wanted to develop into something as the city gained more sophistication. And we knew that that would come at some point in the future. So most of this addresses that aspect of what our intent was. Like I said, it's a plan that didn't get executed. So we didn't go out and visit many businesses. We've had some one-on-ones, but we haven't had an official effort to do that. And, we would propose maybe starting somewhere, depending on people's schedules. Normally, it's probably going to be during the day. So it could be later in the day. Some people might be able to take some morning slots, not necessarily take a whole day for everyone, but something that would allow us to go out, make the contacts and appointments ahead of time, so we're not just stepping into people's businesses when they're busy doing whatever task they're saturated with on that given day. Set that up in advance and then bring all of that information back. And then again, it was really about being somewhat collaborative, gaining the information, and then acting upon those things. So it's really about a manageable process that has got relevance, and it's time oriented. So we just didn't launch it, but we're here tonight because we do want to launch that effort. And I think, us as folks are interested not just in those who pay their dues and get their name on the board of the membership, but actually participate in our community, in our business community, and the economy that we can have, and someday we will have, where we not only recruit those people to be essentially, a advocate for business in our community. So helping them, whether it's on the chamber front or on the city front, that could be discussing a number of things with either fee reductions or programs. I know you've had some programs. You've had the pretty recent program where you had some grants available. Some of those things, we want to enhance that any way we can. As a board, we're interested in our business community and how we can help it. And I think getting in and getting that feedback from those folks is a little better than a survey. And I'm not opposed to a survey. We're not opposed to a survey, and some of the other directors can speak. I just think the feedback is pretty precious. And if we we do it in the right format, we'll get the right answers. If we go into too sophisticated of a level of discussion, then we might lose the essence of what outreach is about. And it's really patterned after what a lot of chambers have done. I have some colleagues in the chamber partnership. And, you know, a lot of those chambers have their own committees that do this. And we're not maybe quite that big, but there isn't any reason why some of our members or some of our board members and some of our counselors and some of our economic development commission couldn't form that pact and go out and make this effort, you know, execute it and have it be something that we can rely on and maybe it do from time to time. And I know we originally kind of set this up as maybe doing it quarterly, breaking down all of those targets we want to visit, but that's all up for discussion. So, you know, it's time and it's energy. And so, you know, it's going to take those things to make it happen.
Excellent. Do you think the commission as a whole would be able to help participate, or is the goal to look for essentially volunteers who can help form the
Well, I
pact?
think it doesn't have to be that we have everybody at one time, because there is a commitment to it. I mean, if we're doing this during the Monday through Friday, some of us have day jobs, we have to work around and navigate that, right? So I think we could put something together. It could be part and parcel. I do want to have representatives from the council who can participate. I'd like to have board members who can participate, perhaps a few members who are willing and desire to participate. I don't think it's too much to ask to make a lot of these appointments can be made after hours through email, through text, through contacts, personal contacts, but it's all about building relationships. And I think, yes, we would want you to participate. Do you have to be there on September 30th for a whole day? Not necessarily. It's how we want to make that. It's what I think our approach, I think that was the intent of our approach.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for the whole commission, but I think that type of opportunity is what we've been looking for in terms of how we can support and kind of get boots on the ground in terms of going out and making those connections with the businesses and letting them know we're here, the chamber's here to help with some of those things. So I think we as a group would be more than happy to participate.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I like a leader that does that.
I can't believe you getting to this, but part of what we did this year is we have 2 subcommittees, and each of the subcommittees, we made it 6-month goals. We made 3 goals. And yes, and one of the goals, so Chris and David and I, we are on a downtown committee. And one of our goals was to have this, to meet with you as a chamber and to at least try to schedule a few visits with you to actual businesses and and follow through on that in the next few months if possible.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a high priority for us.
Well, I think it's something we need to think about getting on the calendar and working towards. We've definitely pushed this out a number of times. You know, I'm almost ashamed to say we started in 2014. I think we ended up probably somewhere, you know, we had at least a half dozen meetings maybe and didn't quite get there. It's, you know, perhaps I have, you know, I'll take the fall for some of that, but there's a lot of things to be done in the community and
And the pandemic happened, right?
well,
I know
then we had a
that.
pandemic, so it pushed that out even further because it's been there. But yes, I think this is a good opportunity to, you know, get feedback, things that we can make maybe actionable.
Yes.
And you know, it's a small community, so it's a joint effort, and that's really what we're here to say. We don't want to be the chamber versus the Economic Development Commission versus the city. We want to do this in a collaborative approach. Go ahead.
When this started back in 2014, there was a disconnect between the city and our businesses, and we wanted to find out what that disconnect was so that we could help bridge those gaps. our chamber had only 35 members back then. We're over 90 now. So that gives you an idea of how the community has changed in all these years. But we were ready to go out into the field, and then the Economic Development Committee was being formed. And we said, okay, let's, do collaboration. And of course, everything else has happened. So here we are. But it's really finding out what those businesses find as barriers for them in our community.
That's on our list.
Yeah. And have a lot of them at that time, and I'm not sure it's like that now, but a lot of them at that time felt uncomfortable coming to the city council and talking with people. And I think that's changed over time, but a combination of chamber, council, economic development, I think then people will feel more comfortable. They have a problem, they'll raise their hand and come rather than grouse about it to all their customers, okay? That was kind of the impetus for the whole thing.
And the intent wasn't solely focused on our large businesses.
Yeah.
A lot of times they have a greater degree of economy, a scale. They have more resources, and often they have perhaps more time. And our smaller operations, our smaller operators, our small businesses, our micro businesses, they're all important folks in that discussion too. So we don't want to overlook that our intent wasn't to just take the industrial sector or some portion of the commercial sector. It was really to make a good approach and go out to meet as many people as really were willing to spend a few minutes. We didn't really plan on spending a lot of time with them. We didn't want to burden their day with a lot of time. But the questions that were put together actually do come from a meaningful intent of chambers to learn and get the kind of information like barriers. What are the barriers? And to open the door, if you will, for communication. So we don't have a breakdown between what's going on for business at City Hall or what's going on in the community.
Not to get too far in the weeds, but how do you envision gathering that feedback and data? Is it more of a?
Well, it's going to be basically going, asking the questions and taking notes.
Describing.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be a lot more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Surveys can be done. They can be done in a lot of cases on a more micro level, on a more consistent basis. And I do believe that's something we can collaborate on as well, because there may be times or periods of times when the issues might be a little bit different than maybe a 30,000 foot view, for example. For example, we did have a party come last night to our council meeting, and they approached the council with their, not a new idea, but their vision of potentially siting a daycare facility here on Glencoe Road, which is actually the property that's vacant at Contour Chiropractic. So that's a pretty large facility that could probably be transformed into the daycare setting, and they seem to be interested in it. And their approach was, hey, we want to come, we want to talk to you, we need some assistance with maybe the fee structure and some of those things to get up and running. And in my mind, that's a good approach for the city and economic development and so, yes, they need to do a formal application. We told them that they need to talk to staff. There's a number of things that have to happen, but we shouldn't be bogging down our businesses who want to launch with complexity that prevents people from siting here or following through with their ideas. There's a lot of inherent risk in running or owning or even starting a business. So, effectively, it's a gamble, right? Because those risks are there. And how can we help them? And I think that's one example, and maybe a very recent example, where we encourage them to contact the city staff It's not something we could take action on at last night's proceeding. It's more about maybe funneling them in the right pathway to get and then maybe eventually help them where they're going.
And I had asked Bill for the information from the gentleman who was here so that I can at least sit down with them and find out what it is they want to do and what help they need. I think that's kind of a little bit of the role that we see with businesses coming in here. And, but this is mostly for businesses who are established. And again, I think small businesses particularly.
I think that's how we try to view our group as well. Like, we aren't gonna have all the answers if people do come to us, but we want to be that conduit to encourage them to talk with city staff, go to council meetings, things like that, where we can try to remove barriers, even if that's just, to your point, funneling communication and starting the conversations. So that's been one of our challenges, I think, is how do people know that we're here for them as a resource, whether it's potential prospective businesses or existing businesses. So that's, we had mentioned prior, developing some type of marketing materials or something just to make
Which
them aware.
I will, I hate to interrupt, but it just came to mind, and that is a new tool we have, and that we basically created a new website. And that website, there's a lot of dynamics built into that website that I think the city could use as a tool in that marketing. I know the city has their own stuff, but part of making that link is being out there. And I think if it's utilized properly, there's space for that. I would encourage that. And I'm assuming we can make, I think we have a page for the library and one for the city. But I mean, this is about collaboration. So I think it's a tool that should be used. Part of that is how you communicate and you reach out as a body, right? And then we can tie that into how we collaborate as maybe a larger voice in reaching people who are online, interested, not sure what's available. We don't have an inventory of land. There's not a lot of land to have for inventory. Frankly, that's another problem we have to solve at another level. But I mean, encouraging that, I think, is what we're about as members, helping each other.
Bill, I'm gonna put you on the spot real quick. With the Chamber's new website, is there anything under the business page on the city's website preventing them from having a link to their website?
There is nothing preventing that. No, and so I wouldn't call it a caveat, but what I would say is that the city right now is going through and soon will have a new city communications person.
Okay.
We unfortunately lost that person due to some family health issues. We'll have somebody in place in the middle of this month, but that person is really kind of the content manager at the direction of the city.
Okay.
And so that can be done. But we're also on this topic, not just Link, but on this topic, and as well as with kind of things mentioned by Chair Lawson, the city's business and economic development related pages need a rewrite. Their wall of text that in format is unhelpful. I mean, it's good information, but you shouldn't have to scroll down to find what your power and water rates are, for instance. You know, that sort of thing. Rethinking the format and making the information snap in an easier manner. So this is very much doable. A link easily first, but I would just say that this falls in line with that.
Yeah, I just think as we try and partner together, that one, getting new businesses connected with the chamber right away. You guys know the business community. It's just wrapping your arms around someone. It's a good idea. You know that I'm a huge proponent of the chamber. So yeah, I think having that there to show the partnership, to show that North Plains, while it's a small town, has its own dedicated chamber that can actually support the businesses. I think that would just help overall. Especially if you guys have a flashy new website, let's show it. Why not?
Well, and promotion is one of the 4 Ps in business. I mean, it
Yeah.
just is. And, you know, it's one of those things that you need to do. There isn't any reason why our Economic Development Commission shouldn't be out front and center in many places that they can be, if they're practical and within the resources that are there. And I know we can find the resources on the other end to be out promoting what you can do for people.
But I know, like, even like as business owners look to the community, if you have your chamber website that shows your list of members and the other like businesses out there, that's just gonna encourage someone like, oh, here's a supplier that's right in my next door, instead of having to go into Portland and go through them. Looks like there's actually a business out here that's gonna support me as well. So I think having that information available for our businesses is gonna be key. I've been pretty quiet, sitting writing a bunch of notes.
Let them have it.
Russ knows that I love talking, but I love action more. So I love the idea of the committee going out and going, like the welcome committee. The biggest thing I think about is like other chambers, they have their government affairs, like large chambers have their government affairs groups that will typically take that feedback and then go to the city council, or they'll go to their local congressperson and say, hey, here's the things that I'm hearing from my businesses and what they need. What mechanism do you guys see after gathering that information, as far as taking that information, that feedback from the businesses, and then doing something with it? Because we can write in our journals all the things we hear, but if we don't come before council, we don't go before our congress people, we don't actually go and fight for our businesses, we have just collected a lot of notes that do nothing but sit in my notebook.
Yeah, you're right. And at least, I can address this. There has to be a report.
Yeah.
That report's got to go not only to our organization, but it's got to go to the city council. Because the city council needs to be informed and abreast of, what might be developing out there. I know the council can't know everything, and they have to be informed as well. So yes, I think part of that is, can we create some goals from that report that can work towards how we harness the effort to move into action items and actually make not just the council aware, but think about maybe a greater effort to address those things that really come to the top.
Yeah.
So to Chris's question, do you have currently a cadence where you take issues to the city council, or a method of regularly communicating with them?
Well, we really haven't.
Okay.
If there's something glaring, what will usually happen is myself or maybe Cindy or one of the other board directors might just approach a council person directly and say, hey, this is something that maybe you should have on your radar. We haven't had lots of issues with the city, things like that, but the breakdown in the communication in some cases, we're a different city than we were 10 or 15 years ago. So some of those barriers we did have, because they were largely understaffed, and in some cases you could argue that we are today. But we need to have a means, yes, to do that. Normal cadence, no.
Okay.
We do not have a political action committee. We don't endorse candidates. We do endorse measures. So we could be advocates and either come and advocate to you or to the council if we thought it was necessary.
One of our more recent initiatives as a commission is to develop a quarterly report to city council. And so I don't know if you're going with that route, Lisa, but that could be a vehicle we use. It's incorporating that in our report, which is on our agenda for later this meeting to kind of discuss our first report that we will be drafting up. So worth noting that.
The other piece to that is our members, I want to say almost all the city council members are members of the chamber. So they are in attendance at the meetings. And again, as Russ said, one of us will usually approach that person, or they'll hear about it at a chamber meeting or through communication. So it's been informal, but we haven't seen that it needs to be very formal at this point. But when we start generating information, yeah, then we need to go to something formal.
I think it too, like, small city, it's easy because like you said, like, a lot of us are in the room with each other, serving on committees with each other. So you hear about it. I think of, the next step is what about at the county level? You have businesses out here that are impacted by policies driven at the county level. So what is the mechanism if we go out and we hear a lot of feedback to essentially say, hey, here's something that's coming down the pike that is going to impact my business. It's going to make me move not only out of North Plains, but out of Washington County altogether. What is the mechanism then to take that information from North Plains and then go to the county, or to the county?
I think that mechanism probably needs to be created.
Yep.
And if we certainly felt like there's something that impactful on our membership, I think our membership would, essentially advocate for us making that approach and informing the county. We have a commissioner who's in District 4 and currently he's probably got another year or two. He's typically somebody who listens, and he would probably be willing at some point to come out and discuss any issues we might have if we put together something to approach it with. But those are things that can be brought to their attention. So yes, that mechanism doesn't necessarily exist, but there's no reason why we couldn't develop that as well.
And I'm among the small businesses. I see that we have industrial businesses and storefront businesses. In terms of the questions we intend to pose to these different types of businesses, are we going to customize them, or is going to be just the same type of questions?
No, it'd be, I think the questions would be principally for all of them, because all of these things principally affect any operation. So the feedback we get on how business is, or why did we choose to locate here, or what are challenges to why you located here, and what can be done to improve it. And that's not just from a city standpoint, it's from a chamber standpoint. How can we support them? How do we make them aware? Part of it's awareness, right? And some of our smallest operations may be type 2 home occupation permits. They might not have a shingle, so to speak. They don't have a sign hanging out in their yard, but they might be operating out of their garage. But we definitely have a lot of storefronts. We have commercial activity. We have industrial businesses. We'll probably have more and more of those. But I don't think the questions really need to be framed any different. Now, I'm not saying it has to be these questions. I think that's something we need to come to an agreement on.
Yeah, I was asking because sometimes they may have different requirements, right?
Yes.
The challenges of industrial business may be different from the storefront business.
Yeah, you're right, they would.
I get it.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Good question.
Did you have anything else on there?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
For now.
Jacqueline, do you have anything?
Hearing a little bit more about, would you recommend that the EDC have an annual survey where we are benchmarking our progress with businesses that would complement this? Because I kind of heard you, Russ, say, hey, we want to move forward with this personal touch, but we would support the survey as well.
Mhm.
And is it worth like popping that up and reviewing? I thought the input from, and I cannot remember his name, City, you just told me the other day, who was here from Great Master.
Yeah.
I thought that like of all of us who was providing like real world feedback to him for the survey, he really supported dialing it in and where we might have missed some nuances. And so I would wonder about just popping that up and making sure that you think it's a worthwhile reusable survey.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with reaching out, especially in a cadence periodically, even if we're reframing some of those things that we're asking. Oftentimes a survey, you're going to get what you want, right? So you want to be careful about how you design a survey so that you get kind of a raw assessment of what their feedback is in relation to whatever it is you're asking in the survey. And, you know, I think that's what gives us the information I think you're looking for is, okay, let's do this, let's keep on top of this, let's re-review it, and maybe we send that out on a periodic basis. I'm not sure if that's quarterly, but it certainly would be, I think, on an annual basis, because things do change a fair amount in the 12-month period.
Kind of my thought when you were discussing what type of cadence the actual outreach would occur was implementing a survey that we can send out that they would do, businesses would complete on their own time annually, so every 12 months, but then also annually we have in-person outreach, kind of go through the same exercise as what's laid out in the form here in terms of actually reaching out, setting up meetings face-to-face, getting more like qualitative feedback from them, and kind of have like a 6-month cadence of every 6 months we're at least attempting to get information so that we can get a better idea of, you know, how things are changing, how we're performing to kind of whatever baseline we establish. I don't know if every 6 months businesses would start atrophying in terms of their participation, if that's too much of an ask. Because the more the outreach plan of kind of going in and just having a conversation with them, I think would probably be less of an ask than, even if it's a 10-15 minute survey, still would be another thing to do for them. So we don't want to be overbearing in terms of our outreach, but.
Well, in a lot of cases, I don't think we necessarily want to go back to the same people. So as we develop the cadence, I think we can look at that and structure it that makes sense for what it is we would like in terms of what we want to see back. So we can report back. We can report to our board, let's say, for those members and our membership, because they're obviously going to be interested, as well as the council. So, and that's something that, you know, the city staff becomes aware of, and maybe there's things that, you know, that come up to the surface that we really hadn't been thinking about. But I do think doing something is better than doing nothing.
I can talk about the survey. I'm sorry, I have to think a little bit harder here, but I believe that our website is set up so that a survey can go out. It's very sophisticated, but that's a level I haven't gotten to yet. I mean, we're talking about 3 months here that we've been working on it. And Janelle, do you remember seeing that?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that, you know, if you wanted to do a survey, we could do it through our website from the Economic Development Commission. I think we can do that very easily.
Do you remember off the top of your head what platform is it? Like a website building?
Sorry, I haven't gone there. Yet. We're just trying to get the basics squared away.
Our site has a lot of, it's very dynamic.
Yeah.
So we're learning as we go. And
It's not a platform that you'd recognize.
Right,
It's their
yeah.
own Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's through Chamber Nation is the name of the company that we're working with. But yeah, our website is so dynamic. Like I said, I haven't even touched upon the several things like that, but I know it's there. And if we need to do that, then we'll fall into it right away.
I love automation for the efficiency of it. If you send the surveys online, you can pull back and you can put them into a spreadsheet. So you can save all that man hours, just have the highlights and maybe create a chart or something.
yeah, I think it has that capability. I think it's, well, I can tell you that it's dynamic. It's based on AI, and it has a lot of tools that we really haven't even scratched the surface of.
That'd be a real labor saver.
Yeah. I'll look at it a little bit further and dig into it and provide you with some information. Like I said, it's been kind of down at the bottom of the list, but I'll bring it up a little bit.
That's kind of where our conversation was going in our previous meeting, was regarding kind of how we are issuing the survey and how we can essentially automate it. There's plenty of resources out there. It sounds like
Oh,
their website builder.
well, like
is one.
Survey Monkey is what
Right.
we used the last time we did the survey. I think
Yeah.
you got a copy of that, yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so I don't think what we have is any less than that, and it may be even more.
There also might be a difference too of where a survey comes from.
Yeah.
Some businesses might say, oh, I'm not answering those because it comes from the city, but if it comes from the chamber or something, they might be more open to it, or even economic.
If we just put our smiling faces on it, see if we can-
Well, and I think another aspect, to speak to Stuart's point, is that there could be reservations about this. And I think part of the collaboration could be, we can design it to maybe mitigate that. And, you know, I think the tools there, we do need to explore more, but getting some responses and getting as raw feedback as we can, I think, yeah, we can turn it into reports. It can help guide us. I just think there's a fair amount there, so I think it's the right way to go.
Yeah, I think the guidance would be the good part to ask, do we have enough, you don't get them all, but you get some. And it will give you a clue of what to ask. for them, right?
Well, yeah, you're right. And another aspect is we're gonna include non-member businesses. It's, I mean, we're always looking for recruiting members, right? Helps our revenue, which we're not a large, wealthy chamber by any stretch. But, you know, we're kind of small and mighty. We've got horsepower here, people that are willing to sacrifice some time and do some things. And with that kind of a tool, it allows us to go out and pull our non-member businesses, because that is part of the broader community than just the chamber membership. And you're looking at the entire city and maybe some surrounding businesses that are close to the city. So.
Yeah, our membership is not limited to city limits.
With some of this discussion, does the chamber have an idea on like demographic data on business owners, how long they've been in business within the city, and what types of business?
We'd have to ask those things.
Okay.
We'd have to survey for that.
Yeah, and that was,
Length of time in business.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, when they were started, those kinds of things would all have to be part of the survey.
and that kind of feeds into a lot of what we've been discussing in terms of marketing material too. If there's a higher percentage of women-owned businesses in North Plains than we realized, and being able to get a better idea of the actual demographic of business owners, that would hopefully paint a better picture of, some of the questions we might want to ask going forward.
One of the resources on how long they've been in business is look at the business license number, because they're chronological. And you can get a list of them and you'll see the smaller numbers are the ones that have been there the longest. Now, figuring out exactly when might be a little more difficult. but
Yeah.
At least you can say who's the old timers and who's the new.
And I'd be happy, because I think I have bookmarked at least 2, maybe 3 actual economic development commission websites that are hosted vis-a-vis the Chamber of Commerce where they're located through Chamber Nation. So that's a promotional tool that those cities are partnering with those chambers to promote. And like I said, promotion's a big way to disseminate information.
And I am looking at the outreach, and it looks great, but is there any timeline for when like the subcommittees constituted, start putting these, to execute this,
Yeah.
That's what, how did we get started?
like, yeah,
Those-
like constituting.
Yeah. That's a good kind of segue. I wanted to start discussing next steps in terms of how we can start participating as a commission in this, as well as kind of what the chamber would benefit the most from in terms of our engagement as a group. If it's another, kind of work session to hash out a lot of these details, if it's kind of more ad hoc meeting, whatever next steps we need to contemplate.
You mentioned that you've got two subcommittees. What are those specifically?
One's focused on the Glencoe opportunity area, and then the other's focused on more the downtown corridor. They both have been established to develop their own SMART goals in terms of progress we actually want to make focused on those areas. So those subcommittees, subgroups brought forth their goals. And we can get into those if you would like, but part of the actual engagement with the businesses themselves in the downtown corridor and then the Glencoe opportunity area was more so around the actual business development and trying to build out that was where Mike was in that group as more of the marketing focus for that subcommittee. So those two groups have been established. It's just 3 members apiece, and then I'm my own subcommittee focused on the UGB project advisory committee, which is coming up.
Yes.
So that's kind of how we subdivided to Concord, sort of.
So both groups have an interest in working with the chamber in
Yeah.
different ways. And we all coordinated on coming up with some thoughts about survey and questions we would want to ask the business.
Yes.
But all of us are really, to volunteer to help and to coordinate.
Well, then maybe what I think we should propose is if we look at 3 months, we need a little time to maybe re-put things together, meet again in 3 months in a work session and develop the plan. So we need to write a plan of what we're gonna do and when we're gonna do it, set up the time. And we don't wanna do it over the holidays unless you wanna try to tackle this earlier. I kind of want to wait till after the holidays are over and kind of get the plan framework together, get the plan together, come to an agreement on that, and then decide when we actually take action. And, let's say by sometime in the spring, we're launching some visits, survey material, some of those things. That'll give us time to do the research. And do you think that's a reasonable, does anybody have any objections to that?
I don't know what your timeline is, but perhaps maybe doing the survey first.
Yeah.
And then that gives us some guidance for the in-person visits. Maybe some of the questions are tweaked that we ask as we go visit. And when we do the visits, it might be best to have 3 people, maybe a chamber person, an economic development committee, and a council person.
We don't want to send 10 people.
Yeah.
That was what I thought.
Yeah, so the 2 or 3 people, but that way the business also knows that we mean business and we mean that business to help them. So
It's a good tagline.
And I'm sorry, you have offered surveys before, or this would be a first time launch for surveys? I'm just curious the participation you've had in previous surveys, with people wanting to take part, or does it go to spam and do people even see them?
We have issued surveys before. In terms of engagement, I don't know off the top of my head, Bill, if you would remember number of businesses or number of responses that we received.
Is the survey like your first week, it was very early on, and I couldn't tell you exactly how many.
It was a decent, somewhat sizable. It wasn't all encompassing by any means, but we did get a pretty good sample size.
So
So it's encouraging.
Yeah. Already kind of survey to send out. It's easy just to say, oh, they responded, there you go. It's always good to put like a percentage goal, like you want 80% to respond. So you got 8%, you keep on, hey, can you please just, keep it up, right? Until you reach that percentage goal. So.
If it takes more than 3 minutes, it's not gonna be answered.
And we don't know that
Yeah,
too.
I-
I got 36 responses.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might
Which
want
is
lots
like,
of
yeah.
data, but we won't
That's old
necessarily
timers have the
get
data.
lots of data.
Yeah.
36, which isn't too bad.
And also, going out on the first visits, you might find, oh, we need to really change our approach here. I mean, we're just giving this a try. Let me look into what's on our website. And dig into that a little bit and understand it a little bit more. Can I communicate with one of you, all of you, maybe all of you?
Yeah.
Eric, okay. Just to give you an idea what's there, okay? And I'll even meet with the owner of the company. He's very good and doesn't mind spending a little bit of time discussing the elements of the website. So,
Okay, great. And then I think we can focus maybe next meeting on the actual survey structure, how we want to start putting it all together. If we are going to try to issue that ahead of any type of in-person outreach, I think we could maybe set a goal of by the end of the year, having a survey either issued or ready to.
And our experience has been anything after Thanksgiving, forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah, until mid-January, really. Because a lot of our small business owners, they work through the holidays and then they take 2 weeks off in January. So again, mid-January is that, so, and that's why Russ mentioned that. That's why we do our holiday event before. We kick off rather than participate in the middle, so.
Definitely. So in terms of our two groups meeting again, you mentioned kind of that 3-month timeframe. We would want to meet after the holidays. So it'd
Well,
be
I'm thinking we're in September.
It would be right around early December if we wanted to try to stick to exactly 3-month cadence, or we could plan on our January meetings, I think are hit and miss because we are meeting the first Wednesday. That might even fall on the first of the year.
I think it's the first.
Yeah.
Or second.
I think it is.
So then we might look at February, not to get too far down the road. But
No, but I mean, we need to make some steps, right?
Yeah.
So it gives us time to kind of get organized as well. I mean,
Formulate, figure out how to do the survey within our
Exactly.
website.
Yeah, really.
And execute it, so in a way that's gonna be productive for everybody.
Exactly.
Plus gives us an opportunity to really discuss this at the board level because it's been on our agenda for months and years. We just have not discussed it because we've just been waiting, so. Okay.
Okay, so we'll plan on February and then we'll communicate, obviously Cindy, just on your findings. And then as an EDC, we'll continue working on actual survey question structure, kind of refining that.
And I do know that on the surveys through our website, it does not have to be to a chamber member. Okay, I just need to put in their information to send it to them. So that way it does come from the chamber and they're more likely to pay attention to it.
Yeah. Perfect. I say this every meeting. I feel like I've been talking too much. Does anyone on the commission have anything else we want to discuss with the chamber?
Chamber have anything for us?
Not that I can think of. Really, our primary purpose is to get this going and get it resurrected. I mean, we're pretty far down the line. We had some of the list developed. We just didn't get there. And obviously, it's been changes to that. So we need to get back in. Towards the launch.
Excellent.
I think it's great. You're adding focus to issues, right? You gotta be that point of contact for people out there to focus the problems they have. That's fantastic. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you for taking time out of your evening.
Can't see us, I think we have a lot of meetings.
A lot of meetings, a lot of things outside of those meetings that are very important. So, thank you again. Appreciate your time. As a group here, we, planning planning on discussing our quarterly report. Do we want to discuss that further? Do we want to truncate and discuss further this month? It's,
I want to
we
be
were,
sure. You're giving it out.
well, we were targeting Q3.
Yes.
First.
Either move the goalposts.
The take is time.
Thank you very much.
So we talked about doing a written response, written submissions. I don't think we were also talking about visiting council for the first, at least the first report to give them that update. So I guess be cognizant of everyone's time, we could potentially, I can draft up a report, share it with the group. We can tweak it as needed and submit to council and establish an actual meeting date that we would share it with them.
Yes, I could work on getting that on the agenda.
Okay.
You want help drafting?
I'm pretty fluid in terms of, I can just work on a rough draft, share it with anyone willing to get their eyes on it.
Yeah, if you don't mind, if we can do the format you did with UGB, I believe, or no, or with, that we did for, I think, our charter.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you're willing to do it, kind of that similar way.
I can also, I think that as well as, we had some submittals for the UGB.
We did that as well. Yeah, yeah.
Is that what you're thinking of as
Yeah, I was
well?
thinking of that, and then we also worked on the charter.
Yeah.
Somewhat off
Okay.
together.
Yes. So yeah, I can start drafting that style, that format. I envision just kind of very high level, like almost bulleted items of what we've been working on, nothing too lengthy.
Yep.
Yeah.
We did a volunteer day.
Yep.
We met with the chamber, we planned a survey, but that kind of,
Yes.
would it be helpful to just like give you 5 ideas right now?
I was gonna ask if there's 10
Yeah, those
ideas,
are-
but
Both fantastic.
All that right there.
And you did some research, some outreach to some of the Glencoe businesses. Was that part of the survey? Or I guess you pulled up the old survey from last time and did some analysis on it.
Yeah, we re-reviewed the old survey, we drafted a new survey. I did take what Michael sent, and as we were sitting here, didn't put it yet in a Likert survey, but kind of like here is how I would condense the questions. Here's what the drop downs might look like, and put that back in for review. And once we like dial that in a little bit more, then it would be easy enough to get into actual proposed template to send to this group.
So Bill, do we have to have a specific item to be printed up for the council, or can it just be a bullet point update from the EDC?
I think it'd be perfectly fine if you just kind of had by month of the just throwing this idea out. Basically just by month, 5 bullet points of what you discussed or did each month. And then if you kind of want to have an introduction that said the emphasis was, or the major project for this subcommittee was, or, just something like that, very summary oriented.
Does it have to be by month versus a quarterly summary of major?
It doesn't have to be by month. I only suggest month because maybe there's something holiday related you did, or your work project for cleanup day, that, it just purely to kind of give just some calendar element to it.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have to be, not at all. It would be up to you. The main thing I would suggest is that it can be very summary oriented, Because quite frankly, no other board or commission is doing this.
We are gonna be the trendsetters
That
and
is
just do a
correct.
summary. So
That-
we supported UGB, like volunteer work for UGB. So where is that outside the scope here? There was just so many people in this group involved.
Yeah, you can get that. You can say different members, were involved, or there's an ongoing UGB subcommittee. However you'd like to phrase that, but really just to kind of get the thing is, council has not seen this from a prior board ever before, and just seeing what you're doing is going to be wonderful.
So if you went down it for UGB, Eric, you serve as the representative. We've been monitoring the progress every month. And we have volunteered as individuals to support the city's agenda.
Yeah, I think you've made it official that Eric, as the subcommittee of one, will be on the Relook Advisory Committee. So you've designated a representative, so you're very actively, you're geared up.
It's our
So,
volunteer day, Kent's Corner, developed new survey as well as reviewed old survey data. Met with Chamber to discuss our relationship and collaborate. I'll of course expand on most of these. Volunteered for UGB expansion effort, but part of that is formed subcommittees to focus on pertinent items within the city's economic landscape, listing the Glencoe Opportunity Area, downtown corridor, UGB advisory.
Oh, we had a new
Smart
grant.
goals.
Yes, smart goals, and we had a new grant recipient come in and,
Oh, yes,
yes,
good.
for new business.
Viewed and approved.
And for the first meeting, who will be representing the EDC at the council?
I believe I would.
Ah,
Unless David, you wanna
Oh,
get?
anybody can attend, anybody can attend it,
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, we can all
Yeah,
go as a group.
yeah.
It
Just
really
be
is.
sitting
Oh,
there.
no,
where
I
they
thought
are
we
today.
discussed it previously, so definitely,
I know
we
we
must,
must,
of course, it must start with the chair.
I know we want to establish like a rotation.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And even that can be somewhat fluid in terms of who's available.
I also took up Bill and Lori's offer to just apply as an individual, so that's also open to any one of us, but not as an EDC
Oh.
representative.
That's
For the UGB.
I forgot about that offer. Is that the offer still open or is it closed?
Sure, Lawson, you mind if I?
Just real quick, are
Okay, finish this
any
up and then
other,
I'll-
any other items that we want to include? I can go back through some of the meeting minutes and extract some things, but I think that's a pretty good start.
Is it
my-
like,
My understanding is that we put some draft secretary, right?
Yeah.
we onboarded 2 new members and finished our charter. I don't know what quarter that fits into. Has that already been reported? And we-
Well, they adopted
Yeah.
it, so they're aware of that. And then they installed by resolution the new members. Are you focusing on third quarter? July?
I
August,
think
September?
it can be pretty all encompassing in terms of,
It's the first one.
That's
That's
fine.
fine.
yeah,
Because
that
the
works.
first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do they want to know about our SMART goals?
I'll just maybe allude to the fact
you could
that,
be mentioning you've developed or are developing them.
Okay.
I think it's worth mentioning the different facets of what you're doing. And then progress can be tracked, but you're letting them know what you're doing.
I think I got some good content.
Okay, on the topic of the urban growth boundary. As far as volunteers go, the official closing date for getting, so let me rewind. There is a new relook advisory committee that's being formed or has been designated, and it's an expansion of the previous project advisory committee that Eric participated in on your behalf, to basically figure out where the urban growth boundary line, a new one should be, and that's what, that recommendation is what council took and adopted. So fast forward to now, we are going to go through a 3 or 4 month process called the urban growth boundary relook process, okay? And we're going to have a bigger committee that's going to do the relook and come up with a new recommendation of where the urban growth boundary line should be in light of relooking at it and more people looking at it. The Relook Advisory Committee has 7 new positions, and I think I talked a little bit about it before, but 7 new positions that have been set up to include people who don't live in the city, just at-large representatives geographically, as well as seats within the city, city resident seats, based on how they voted or if they didn't vote on the referendum in May. Okay. Applications for those seats, all of them, the new volunteer seats, were closed on the 26th. Okay. Having said that, we've inventoried them, and 4 seats, 4 city resident seats got no applications whatsoever. We got enough applications for people who voted yes. We got enough applications for people who voted no. But we got no applications from 2 categories of people. Number one, if people were registered, if residents who were registered to vote decided not to even vote on the referendum, maybe they knew who their party's presidential nominee was going to be, so they didn't bother because it was a primary election. Maybe they didn't care, who knows? But we have 2 seats set aside for people who were registered but didn't bother to vote. And we got no applications for people who fit that description.
Is that a surprise?
That's the definition of the problem. Right? Lack of participation. That's
You didn't vote and you didn't sign up to be
right.
surprised.
But
I'm sure you'll post on Facebook.
But they're there, exactly. But they're there. And then we have 2 seats for people who live in the city, residents, 2 different residents seats for people who live here, pay taxes, rely on the services, but can't vote here. And really with the intent of it being people who perhaps aren't US residents but live here, and so didn't even get a choice on the UGB in the referendum. And we want to hear from those people. They pay taxes.
Yeah.
They live here, they pay taxes, they pay for the services. They can't vote, so they were disenfranchised from that process. We'd like to hear from 2. We'd like 2 of them to participate. Okay, we got no applications from that description of person. So we really need 2 people who didn't bother to vote, and we really need 2 people who couldn't even, no matter how they felt about it. We're not looking for people who were cheerleaders for a UGB expansion, and we're not looking for people who are virulent opponents to it. We're just looking for people who couldn't or didn't voice their opinion. And so we really need people who fit that description to apply.
Do you have a list
I'm
from
sorry?
your voter registry? Like, do you actually know who your target audience is for outreach?
In terms of going out and getting, no, we don't have a list of who voted.
Okay.
We just, the official results from the county are what we're using that get released by the county. It's number of registered voters, who voted yes, who voted no. And then we know how many people didn't even bother to vote. We just don't know who they were. So we have to ask on the application. And then we don't even know how many people live here who couldn't even register. So if you know people who fit those 2 descriptions, we would love to have them apply. And it's a short-term assignment. This is supposed to be done by December. My guess is that questions get asked and additional information is wanted, and this extends a little bit. But we're not looking at this being a super long engagement. Okay. So if you know anybody that you're happy to speak to, that you think they would be welcome a conversation with city staff. You know, that sort of thing. We'd love to see them apply. So just putting that out there.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else for us from your side?
For the good of the order, so to speak. I guess what I would say is just a kind of, in terms of the city's role and assistance and participation in what was discussed this evening, at some point, I'd like to give some kind of feedback on some of the survey questions. And not because, I mean, I think anything you ask is going to be great, and there's a lot of great information to get, but from a city perspective, in terms of like informing the city and then coming to us and kind of, you know, this being an entity to recommend to council, wow, we need to do something about this. I kind of have to help with some context about what the city even controls. You know, streets, water rates, not much more than that. Business license fees. I mean, there's kind of a limited menu of things that the city of North Plains itself can do. Now, that isn't to say that the city isn't open to it, and it also doesn't say, that isn't to say that the city can't participate more, better, differently with partners that might maybe can address bigger or different things. But in my mind, you know, I'm old school. It was always about business retention first, expansion next, and attraction third. Make sure your existing businesses are, I understand if they have obstacles, and then help if they do. Is there something in the, then businesses that are looking to grow, what can help that, or what might be getting in the way of the growth? And then the third priority is businesses we don't even have yet. How do we make that a good place? And I think the survey will really help along those lines, but some contextualization to help us better do what we can do would be helpful.
The city has its own lobbyists, right?
We do.
So when we look at these things that are outside the scope of the city itself, say EDC, chamber, even council all come together on this and say, hey, here's something that's outside the city scope. Is it okay then, like, we tap the lobbyists and say, hey, we'd like you to go attack the big fish for us?
No.
No. All right.
The city, the lobbyist, I mean, yes and no. The lobbyist is there to help further the legislative or other intergovernmental agenda for the city.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a touchy thing. I think you as a body providing recommendations to city council for direction for to have what the city can do about something would be the path.
Yeah.
But I'm looking, as this evolves with this body, the city will be looking to this body to help come up with recommendations for how to best market its tools. It's semiconductor city tax exemption, a marketing plan for the businesses that the city can participate in. You know, again, kind of within the context of what the city can do.
Yeah.
They, on the other hand, have direct access to a wider array of lobbying interests than we do.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So there are ways where they can align, but we have to be a little more judicious about it.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
Anything else from the commission members this evening before we adjourn?
We don't have to expend any time since the meeting is at 7:25. But maybe in the next couple of weeks, just if anybody wants to throw out October meeting, Lori wrote.
Agenda items. Yes.
October meeting topics.
A bulk of it, I think, will be the survey.
So, I mean, that's to be determined, but I would just say, I'm supposed to prompt that conversation whenever it happens. Whenever it happens.
Thank you, Bill.
Yes, no problem.
Survey quarterly report.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
And Counselor Page, thank you for being here this evening.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time. Good times. All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn 7:26 PM. Thank you both for double duty.
Yeah.